Last year, one of my Electromechanica Solos got rolled over. It ended up on its roof, and then its side. It had a very bad day. The guy who was driving it thankfully only needed some stitches in his forehead, but the car was destroyed. It was still perfectly functional, but the roof was caved in and almost every single body panel sustained damage. I did consider parting it out, taking all the drivey bits out of it and using them in something else. But they only made like 100 of these G1 Solos. This one is still fully functional, and all the body panels are theoretically repairable. So I felt like I have to at least try to do something to make this car live on. Even if it does look like it was high-fived by a tornado. Right, I need to take a considered approach, be careful where I start. I don't want to just go hacking away. See, I only nicked it, it's fine. Oh, it was in 2 layers. Look at that. This ought to be interesting. I've never removed a windshield before. Thankfully, the stakes are low. Very sturdy. Oh, movement. Oh, that feels crunchy. I think I'm in the windshield again. This is terrible. I hate this. Okay, I went out and bought the other kind of windshield remover tool where you stab this thing through, fish a cable through, and then you use that cable to saw around the... I don't know where this is going to go. We're going to try it. I have been trying off camera and I can't get it to go through anywhere. I immediately made a liar out of myself. Yee! Oh, that's through the windshield. That's just... Ah! Oh, this feels so wrong. I have very little plan of what's happening, what I'm doing, anything. I'm making progress down here. Ow! It's on my hand! Oh, I'm going through the windshield again. Oh, this feels so bad. Make it stop. Oh. Okay, so the problem is this corner of the windshield goes way down there into the corner, and there's no way for me to get the wire down in there and cut around this corner, so this is what I'm doing. This is a bad solution. You thought what I had already done is bad. You just look away. Look away. Oh, this is getting worse. Oh, we're going to do it. We're just doing it. Are we just going to... Yep, that's just what we're doing. Oh. This may be the worst thing I've ever done. I thought removing this windshield would be a 15-minute job tops. I was wrong. I've cleaned up as much danger glitter as I could find and trimmed the sealant around the edges of the windshield, and here's the prognosis. It doesn't look good. This part in this corner is completely smashed to bits. What I think I'm going to do is 3D print a replacement for this pillar and the upper part of this windshield, either to directly use in place, because after all, this is not a structural part of the car, or to use to make a fiberglass mold to make replacement pieces for this. This video is sponsored by Bambu Lab, and they sent me their lovely H2D to print stuff like this with, but we'll talk about that more in a second. The problem is, as you may realize, in order to 3D print something, I first need a 3D model to print, which I don't have for the A-pillar of a G1 Solo. So as an experiment, I took a borrowed 3D scanner and scanned the intact pillar on the right side of the Solo. First I had to peel back the carpet and cover up the big holes with masking tape. I did the scan. Here's that 3D scan, which I then cut into 3 pieces and printed out in draft quality form on the H2D, and here's that part. My hope here was that the 3D scan quality would be good enough that I could scan the intact pillar and just mirror it for the other side, and boom, I have a 3D model to print out. But the 3D scan quality isn't good enough. It's not perfectly smooth. The general shape is there, but the edges are mostly where it falls apart. The edges are weird, and it tried to seal gaps on the top part here in ways that just don't make sense. Now, is it possible to modify and clean up that 3D scan to make it better? Yes. But that's hard, so I gave up on that approach. And I would have given up on trying to 3D print the A-pillar entirely, except that I had been emailing Jerry Kroll, the founder and original CEO of Electromechanica. I emailed him because I asked him for some 3D model files of some smaller parts around the Solo, which he sent me. And when he sent me those parts, which you'll see later on in this video, the way they were oriented in 3D space made it very clear that they came off the CAD model for the whole car. So in response to seeing this, I sent Jerry another email saying, hey, could you send me the STL files of the A-pillar and a little bit of the roof too? Now, he never directly said yes to this, but he made it sound like he was going to send me the 3D models for the A-pillar and the roof so I could just print it out. And he continued to make it sound like he was going to send me those files for months, until finally, after like the 5th time I asked him, it didn't sound like he was going to send me those files anymore. And the reason he gave for this was that of liability shielding. He didn't want to condone or aid in this thing that I'm doing in case something goes wrong and I injure myself or the car breaks or whatever, which is fine, just a little upsetting, and I didn't really expect him to send me those STL files anyway. For one thing, that's intellectual property that he would be willingly giving out. But the funny part of this email was that he referred to these A-pillars as a structural component, which, yeah, sure, this unreinforced fiberglass bodywork is structural. I'll be 3D printing a lot of parts for this project, but unfortunately the A-pillar probably isn't going to be one of them. I'll have to figure out what to do about that later. Speaking of 3D printing, this video is sponsored by Bambu Lab, and you should get yourself a Bambu Lab printer because it's a very useful thing to have around the shop. For example, I lost the gas cap on my Saab, so I modeled up and 3D printed a new one out of nylon. I printed this high voltage conductor bar holder for the Escape project, and I printed my foot. Perhaps a less useful example. Look, I was just trying to get to grips with the 3D scanner that I borrowed, and I scanned my foot. I already had a Bambu Lab P1F, and then earlier this year, Bambu Lab sent me an X1C, which was a step up. And now they've sent me an H2D, which is obviously bigger, but is also surprisingly better than the X1C. I didn't think you could make a printer that was better than the X1C, but the H2D has loads of little tweaks all over it. And, aside from being bigger, it has dual nozzles. You can already do multicolor printing with any Bambu Lab printer as long as you have an AMS. But the most exciting thing dual nozzles allows is multi-material printing with incompatible filament types. Because my H2D has dual nozzles, I can print this PETG gray part with PLA supports, and they separate like this, leaving a perfectly clean interface layer. But the really exciting thing is printing flexible TPU with PLA supports. If you have a single nozzle, you basically have to print TPU supports for your TPU, and it sticks to itself too well. It's basically inseparable. But because I have an H2D with dual nozzles, I can print PLA supports for my TPU part, and it just kind of peels off of the PLA, leaving a perfectly smooth interface layer underneath. I even made a practical use of this whole PLA supports with TPU thing later on in the video, but that comes later. If you want to get a Bambu Lab H2D for yourself, click the link down in the description, and thanks again to Bambu Lab for sponsoring this video. I genuinely love their printers. I'm turning this into a Roadster. At least I think I am in this moment. And the main reason I'm doing that, instead of just rebuilding it back to the way it was, is this door. In the rollover, the window shattered and this top door frame was completely destroyed. I have no idea where or even if I could find a replacement window to go in here. Maybe it was bespoke to the Solo, I don't know. And this top of the door section is incredibly complicated and would be very, very difficult to rebuild. To be fair, this whole section is also going to be very, very difficult to rebuild, but it is at least a little bit less complicated, and, this is important, I have a replacement windshield to go in here. This door, I just don't think I can rebuild. And that's why Roadster. Also because Roadster cool. I'm glad this door's already screwed up because I'm really doing a number on it. Oh, screws. I did all that prying, I think, for no reason. There's screws in here. Again, good thing it was already ruined because I'm incompetent. Oh, okay. Okay, figured out that bit there. And then. Oh, that's all part of the window track assembly. Oh. Ah! Aha! I found another bolt down in there. Ah, that's what's stopping me. This car was assembled by sadists. Yeah, there's an accessible bolt on the outside, but on the inside is a non-captive nut. How the heck am I going to get to that? Stupid design. The Generation 1 Solo was not a mass-produced, factory-built vehicle. They were produced in very low numbers, and they were hand-assembled in Canada. And that comes with it a certain degree of unpredictability. This window track piece and this interior door handle were held on by bolts with non-captive nuts on the inside of the door. I still can't figure out how to get to the nut on the inside of the door to take this window track piece off. I did manage to get this interior door handle out, but when I did, the non-captive nut fell to the inside of the door. And now I cannot figure out how to remove this door panel. Now, on a normal car, logic would say there has to be a fairly simple way to get this door panel off. I'm just not seeing it. But this isn't a normal car. Who's to say they didn't screw this door panel on and then glue the vinyl over top of the screw heads? I so-called it. Inside the door pocket in here, covered up by carpet that was glued over top of it, I just did a little peeling back, is a single Robertson head screw. Not only is this infuriating, it's also evidence of Canada. Ah! That was the key! Well, mostly. Still couldn't figure out how to get this door panel off, so I had to look inside the door with the borescope, and I found yet another hidden freaking screw that had carpet glued over top of it. Now, what is holding the door on? It's probably the speaker. Let's try removing the speaker and see what happens. These are drywall screws. These are 100% drywall screws. Ah! Ha ha ha! I think the only piece left is this stupid chrome strip that is held on by silicone. So I need to take that off. Then the top of the door panel will be free. And I can take it off. I'm not annoyed, you're annoyed. I'm just gonna push it down into the door. That's what's happening. Okay, well, hope I can get this door panel off. That's also glued on the top. Yeah, that's 100% glued up there. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, this is gonna be such a nightmare to put back together. If only I didn't have to access the inside of the door. Ah, ooh, that's full of glass. Oh, I'm bleeding now. I'm back and I have gloves now. Come on, just release, there we go. Window switch. I like that they use Deutsch connectors all over the place, that's cool. And then this is removed. I hate the way this car is put together. Oh, there was some more broken glass that fell out. Good thing I got the gloves. I might replace this with a different vapor barrier, but I also might not because it's going to be a topless roadster. What do I need a vapor barrier for? Look, another bolt in there with inevitably a non-captive nut on the other side. Another bolt. Hey, look! Oh my God! I have access to the non-captive nut on the back side of this. We're doing that right now. We're taking this off. I am kneeling in broken glass right now. I can feel it in my knee, but I'm gonna ignore that and just get this bolt out. Ha-ha! I am the master. Nope, there was a washer that fell in. Okay, well, we're gonna ignore that. And now this piece that I apparently unnecessarily mangled should just lift right out. Should just go boop and just come right out. Why isn't it moving? Ah! Adhesive. More freaking glue. Ha-ha! That's masking tape. That was part of the assembled car. Masking tape in there. That's good. Oh, that's a 3D printed piece. Unfortunately, I don't need this 3D printed part anymore. Bamboo printers are much better than whatever garbage they were using, because this is terrible. The mirrors on this thing are the mirrors from a Chevy Cruze, and I do have replacements, but it's not time for those just yet. Ha! Even more glass! Good news! If the window regulator dies in my other Solo, I now have a replacement part. Now I have solid proof that there is indeed a crash bar in this door. I had no idea if there would actually be one. Good to see that there is. The mounting holes for this mirror are really imprecisely placed. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to re-glue this top bit yet. You won't be surprised to learn that these two randomly placed wood screws at the bottom are really hard to place back where they belong. Got it. Obviously, it's not done yet. I still have to print or otherwise fabricate parts to cover up this bit, and this bit, but it's progress. By the way, I looked at the part number on the window regulator that came out of here. The window regulator, and presumably the window that was attached to it, are from a Chevy Cruze as well. So it would have been very easy to find a replacement. Whatever, I made my decision, we're going Roadster anyway. It's a lot faster the second time. And somehow undo the door handle without dismounting the door handle. Well, I guess I'll do it like that. Okay, I noticed this on the other door too. There's this Deutsch connector that goes to nothing. Wonder what that was supposed to be for. This one's different because the glass is intact. Window switch, I can just plug it in and make glass do up down. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm taking the glass out when it's still fully intact, even though it's going to be an open-top Roadster, it's because when I make these doors frameless, there will be nothing for the glass to sit in because part of the frame is the glass guide rails. These were not designed as frameless windows. Oh, I got it free. Now how do I get it out? Oh, that was way easier than I thought. Oh, look! It says GM right there. It is a Chevy Cruze windshield. Yeah. Yep, more masking tape in there. Look at that. Oh, perfect. I trimmed back this rubber seal part to the only bit I need around the mirror, and now it's time to do the thing that's gonna feel weird on this door because unlike the other door, this window frame is undamaged. That did a pretty good job considering there are no teeth left now. Weird. It's almost like it goes a lot faster when you know what you're doing. Still not attached at the top, but that's a problem for later. Because there's no window in these doors anymore, there's no need for a window switch. So I quickly modeled up and then 3D printed these window switch blanks, printed out of ABS glass fiber to give them a nice matte texture finish. And it just friction fits inside. And this door panel is somehow already broken. Not sure how that happened, but I'm gonna ignore it for now. That looks so much better. This area here was covered up by a plastic trim piece that was already 3D printed from the factory, but it broke in the accident. Remember earlier in the video when I said I'd been emailing Jerry Kroll about the 3D models for some smaller parts around the Solo? These mirror trim pieces is what I was talking about. I emailed him to ask if he had the STL files for these, and not only did he send those STL files right over, he says he's setting up a website to easily download any of the easily 3D printable replacement parts around the Solo, like these mirror trim pieces, which is pretty cool. Thanks, Jerry. And using those STL files, I printed out a draft quality version of those pieces out of PLA to make sure the scaling and sizing was right. And these fit perfectly. Since the test print came out just fine, I modified the STLs just a little bit to make use of multicolor printing and to give this project a name. I printed the final piece out of glass fiber ABS, and what do you call a Solo that's been rolled over? And to answer your question, yes, I am proud of this. It looks so good and it was so easy. There was like no input effort involved. Isn't multicolor printing wonderful? Annoyingly, like with the door panel, there was no thought put into how this piece attaches. On the other Solo, this piece is just held in by two randomly placed screws that just tap directly into the fiberglass underneath. So I'm gonna replicate that. That looks bad, but it looks original too. And just like the other side, that looks bad, but original. As for the top of this door, I don't know what to do yet. For the top of the door panel, I could re-glue this flap over the edge, but I'm not gonna do that because that's stupid. I ended up just cutting the flap off the top of this door panel. I'll figure out how to attach it to the door in a second, but first, to cover up this whole gap here, what I want to do is 3D print a piece out of flexible TPU to cover this bit. The problem is, this door, the top of it, is a nice compound curve. It's uneven. It's basically an organic shape, which means it is dramatically above my 3D modeling capabilities. So what I did was, using a borrowed 3D scanner, I took a 3D scan of the top of this door and sent it off to some friends who know what they're doing in CAD space. Here's a draft 3D model they created. I printed the test piece out of flexible TPU, and because I have an Edge 2D with 2 nozzles to play with, I of course printed the supports out of PLA, which was so satisfying to peel off. And here's that first draft in place. It definitely needs some improvement. Both ends are weird. This piece prevents the door from closing. It needs some profile adjustments, and I don't know how it's going to interact with the door panel. But for a first draft, it's pretty darn good. After some back and forth, I have these parts, and I got to tell you, PLA supports on TPU is game-changing. Look how easy this is. And this revised model fits on here like 1, 2, 3. That looks good. I do need to trim off a little bit on this end piece because of a small interference issue. Aside from that little piece, this model is perfect. Now for this other door, let me first cut the flap off. Now rather than create a unique model for this door, I just took the trim piece that was modeled for the other door and mirrored it. So let's see if it fits. There's piece 1, piece 2. Yes, and piece 3. Okay, this same piece needs to be cut off. There we go, now it's perfect. Obviously, this is in multiple pieces because the printer isn't this big, so I need to figure out what to do with these gaps next. First, I had them model in an 1/8 inch hole into each piece so that I can pin them together with this steel rod. Next, I've got this big gap between each piece, and they're not exactly attached together, so for that job, I've got plastic bond, and I tested it on another TPU piece, and even after it's cured, it remains flexible enough to not crack. First, to mix this epoxy with a stirring stick made of Padauk like a normal person. And since I have some epoxy mixed up, I might as well repeat that for the other door. After the glue joints had hardened overnight, I could sand down the joints with a combination of power and hand sanding. I'm not sure if it hurts or helps this process, but TPU is like sanding a tire. Then I can coat it with a coat of filler primer, which I tested previously, and it will flex with the TPU. After 2 coats of filler primer and some light sanding, I finished these pieces off with some flat black spray paint. And here's the result! This looks good. And here's the other door. Now, is it perfect? No. If I bring you in for a closer look, you can clearly see where the seams are and some of the layer lines from the print. But it's a heck of a lot better than it started out as just a raw 3D printed piece. Now, I did get some flexible body filler to coat this with and to sculpt it down if I wasn't happy with the results of just filler primer and paint and some sanding on these seams here. But this looks good enough that I think I don't want to mess with the flexible body filler. By the way, thanks to Sam and Declan who modeled this piece, they did an awesome job. And finally, to attach the top of the door panel, I'm just going to keep it simple with screws and riv nuts and stuff. Now for the riv nuts. That one doesn't fit there very well. That didn't fit there very well either. That didn't work. I got these speed clips to try, but unfortunately they don't fit down far enough because of this ledge right down here, so I can't use those. So I guess I'll just use regular old nylon lock nuts on the back side. And to keep this door panel from being sucked straight to this flange here and bending it all out of shape, I 3D printed a handful of these little spacers. I'll be honest, this whole spacer situation is tedious and unideal, but all my good ideas didn't work out, so this is what we're doing. Just pop this back on. And all the crimes are hidden. And once again, hide the crimes. I'm not happy with the way the door panel is attached, but it is attached. As a design, I really like this bit of the Solo. It's sloping roofline with the little tiny hatchback, including a little spoiler lip on the edge. Unfortunately, I can't keep any of this. With this section of the roof gone, the top of the windshield is now quite a bit lower than the bottom of this, meaning this is now a parachute. And also, without this transition bit here, this just looks visually wrong. It's too high, so I have to get rid of it. This third brake light and this little camera down here have no backside. There's no accessibility from the inside of the hatch, so I'm hoping they'll be removable from the outside somehow. Hey! Hey! Oh. Oh. Again, here's the camera, and on the backside of that is nothing! How are you supposed to get the camera out of there? Got to make sure I get the Signature Series plaque out of here before I accidentally cut into it. The best part about this plaque is that it says number 38 of 1,000. They didn't sell anywhere near 1,000 of these. They did build over 1,400 Solos total. That's G1, G2, and G3 combined. But they only sold exactly 429 G2 and G3 Solos and maybe 100 G1s. Nowhere near 1,000.
Okay, I've shoved a borescope into the hatch clamshell to see what's on the back side of the camera, and that is the back side of the camera right there. And it doesn't look like there's any sort of nut holding it on the inside of the clamshell. Oh my God, I think it was friction fit the whole time. Haha, it's just a press fit. Ugh. And now... It's topless. Oh, it looks like a bathtub, like a really narrow one. This is the part where I start thinking, do I know what I'm doing? I don't think I know what I'm doing. But at least the car was already destroyed, so if I do fail, I didn't waste a perfectly good car. So there's that. I want to make a turtle shell deck for this area, complete with a trunk to cover this all up, and I want to 3D print it. But obviously, if the top of the door was too much for my 3D modeling capability, so is this whole area. But this time, I at least tried. I started by doing a 3D scan of this entire back area. I started small and simple. I wanted to see if I could just 3D model a cap for this hole, nothing else. I spent several hours modeling something, printed it out, and this is what we got. In two pieces, here and here. I did a pretty good job in the back. It fits pretty well, but in the front, it doesn't fit at all. And I don't know why. But this is all about experimentation, so I moved on immediately to this area, which is more flat and a bit simpler. I wanted to see if I could model just a piece to fit here, here, and then bridge with some flat lid over top of it. I printed that model out, and this is what we got. Which fits perfectly. It fits the contours perfectly. Obviously, this is a super simple part. This is just flat, just a bridge between all the contours, and I avoided the latch entirely, but it's a step. And then I tried to model a piece to fit this area, and this is where it all fell apart. I spent a couple hours joining points and trying to make a surface to cover this, and it failed. I have no idea why, but I could not make it work. So I started over and then just focused my attention to this little corner here. I spent another couple hours on it. I printed the piece out. It was microscopic and it didn't even fit, so I gave up. 3D modeling with basic shapes is pretty approachable and easy. I think anyone can do it. But when you throw meshes and 3D scans and organic shapes into the mix, it gets exponentially harder. I wanted to at least try to start on this, and I did try, but I'm going to leave modeling of this part to the experts, Sam and Declan, who modeled the top of the door, because they know what they're doing. Oh, I also 3D scanned this little area right here, and then modeled this little 3D printed piece, which covers this area pretty well. The problem is, it just looks weird. I don't like this big plastic cap over it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this area yet, but I might just fill in this hole and then paint it black. One last thing, the headlight, which as you can see, I've already removed. This headlight surround, as you can see, is broken. And also here. My first thought with this part was to 3D scan it and replicate it as a 3D print. But then I realized it's just cracked in two places. I don't need to overcomplicate it that much. Good Lord. So I'm just going to epoxy it back together on the back side and then give it a fresh coat of paint on the front side. That's all I need to do. I don't need to overcomplicate it. And I got this little piece glued on too. And lastly, I give it a nice coat of fresh paint. And here it is back in place with the lighting bits reinstalled. Obviously, there's still a lot, I mean a ton of work left on this project. Before I started digging into this solo, I thought the majority of time spent on this project would be in tedious fiberglass and bodywork, sanding, blending, Bondo, all of that nonsense. And I think that's still true. And the thing that's scary about that is I haven't even started on the fiberglass work yet. There's still so much left to do for it. I have to touch every body panel practically, except maybe this one, but probably also this one.
And then there's the scary unknown parts, like what am I going to do with that pillar there and the top bit of the roof and windshield? What am I going to do with the trunk? I don't know. It's fear of the unknown. We'll have to see. It's going to take me a while, so bear with me. The next part of this project is probably not going to be out for several months. Anyway, thank you for following along. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.